Hey guys, I just want to do a little update. It's been a little while. I picked up a bunch of 78 records the other day at the thrift store and only gave $5 for the box. So I haven't categorized them yet, but I did look through them all when I picked them out, make sure they weren't too badly scratched or anything like that. And I stopped at my mother's house last weekend and got a bunch of old computer equipment that I had in storage. And we're working on one of the computers now, so let's go take a look at that. I've already started by taking this apart, cleaning out all the fuzz and bug residue and dead bug carcasses and stuff like that. The motherboard's in surprisingly good shape. It's very clean, which I was surprised. I don't see any traces of corrosion or anything. I don't know if the camera will focus. This is an A80386DX20. This is an IBM PS2. Let's see. It's a model 70 386. I actually have two of these. This one I modified to take the larger DIN connector for the keyboard. Apparently I didn't have a PS2 keyboard. They were fairly new at the time that this came out, and so I put a jack on there that would accept this plug, because I didn't have one of these handy dandy adapters at the time, but I do now. The other one still has the original jack, so I'll need this adapter to plug the old keyboard in, or plug a modern keyboard in there. Something interesting is there's a fuse here on the board. I don't know what it's for, probably power supply. There's a bunch of inductors along here. Yeah, it's got these neat metal ICs, and there's I believe that's the BIOS. It's a Toshiba chip. The camera will focus on that. Copyright IBM 1989. The power supply had some nasty foam along here that's actually kind of rusted the case, so I've cleaned that all off. I've took the power supply apart, oiled the fan because that made a little noise, and took a paintbrush and cleaned out all the fuzz and everything. There's a vent along the bottom that's actually got screen in it, which is the air intake, and that was like half plugged. I have fired up the power supply by itself. That seemed to come up okay. And I connected it to the board, connected the board to the monitor, powered it up. It came up okay and went to, well, here, I'll show you. Let's see here. There's no, well, I've got the memory in it now. It came up with an error because I didn't have the memory in it the first time, and it still has a bunch of errors. Okay, monitor's connected. Connect up the power. Like I said, I have another one of these that I haven't done anything with, and I also have a 486 carcass, but I'm thinking that that's probably dead because all the jumpers, somebody took all the jumpers and everything. So we'll power it up. There's the memory test, which takes quite a while. I believe it has about 5 megs. I think it came up with $4.99. There are 3 sticks, 2 double-sided and 1 single-sided. $49.92 kilobytes, okay. 301 error, which I believe is the keyboard. 601 is drives. 162 I don't remember. 163 error. And then what it'll do is it'll boot into IBM Basic. You don't see that anymore. It used to be, it would put you into Basic. The IBM Personal Computer Basic. C1.1, copyright IBM 1981. 62940 bytes free. So, that's what it does. I'm going to continue to put the rest of the case together There's a carrier that goes in here and covers it up. That's why I wanted to take the video now. It snaps into these risers here, and that holds the there's a back plane that plugs in this card here, which takes your floppy drive in the front and your hard drive in the back. And then there's an expansion card that plugs in this slot, and then there's these two extra expansion slots. Those I believe those are proprietary. Camera will focus there. They're not PCI, and they're not 16-bit ISA. So I believe these are proprietary for the PS2 system, but I'm not positive. So I will get the carrier in and check back with you. Alright, that didn't take long at all. This just snaps down in, and then you press these little buttons in. They're like little snap clips. And then the back plane just plugs in, and the speaker and the memory battery is here, but that was gone, which is probably good because it was all corroded. That just plugs in here, and the expansion card is a 3-com network card, I believe. It's got a BNC connector and a joystick style connector, but I imagine that's not for a joystick. It's probably for some kind of a conversion adapter. So yeah, here's the floppy. It would appear that the button is a little bit bent, so I will bend that back straight. I don't know if the floppy works. Manufactured for IBM Corporation. It's got an Alps motor on the back. It's an Alps drive, made in Japan. And that basically, it's got a plastic carrier on the bottom of it. And you just drop that in here, and it plugs in. That's all there is to it. And I always like to plug and unplug a couple times. Now there's a catch right here on the front that you got to raise, and it comes right out, and we'll just plug it in again. And the hard drive looks like this. It's quite thick. It's got a carrier on the bottom. It is an IBM hard drive. 60 megabytes. That's correct. Megabytes. Made by IBM Japan. Model WD387. So, and that's got quite a strange connector on it. It's quite large. The floppy drive almost looks like a standard style floppy connector, with the exception that there's no power. It's all in the plug. Same thing with the hard drive. All the connections are made via this card edge, and same type of deal. It just sets in here and then snaps in. Let's get in the right grooves here. It's not in the right groove. I guess it is. It doesn't want to slide. I know it fits because I took it out of here. There we go. I got to push down on the catch here. And we just plug her in. This is going to take 2 hands. So hold on just a second. Yeah, I had to have 2 hands, one to hold this card from flexing and one to shove it in. Okay, so I'm going to connect up my old school keyboard. It's a replica. It's not a genuine clicky. It's a Herco. But last I knew it worked. Everything's plugged in. Let's fire it up and see what happens. The hard drive spins up. This is the first fire up in probably, I would guess, about probably 15 years. Okay, 49.92, 301, 162, 163. 301, 162, 163. Oh, look at that. There are 3 errors. Equals not okay. Go to IBM. Alright, I'm going to go look up these errors and see what they come up with. The keyboard does affect it. It may not be correct. I don't know if when I wired that pin, if I did it correctly. So I'm going to go look up these numbers, these error codes, and see what they say. Okay, so the wonderful world of the internet has told me what these codes are. 301 is keyboard didn't respond correctly. 162 is CMOS checksum error or CRC error or adapter ID mismatch. And 163 is CMOS error clock not updating. That's probably because the battery is not in here, so the CMOS has forgot the settings, so it may not boot. Well, it didn't boot. The keyboard error, I'm not exactly positive. I may have to source a PS2 plug and get a PS2 keyboard, because if I press the keys, it does stuff, but it doesn't want to work. So I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to reboot it again and see what happens. Yep. So it does pull that drive. It does not pull the hard drive, probably because the settings are not in the BIOS, and that's what it says. So I'm going to shut this down and probably dig out the other one and play with that a little bit, and we'll update you guys. Alright, it turns out that the second one is actually older. It's a DX16, and the circuit board's a lot bigger, and it's got something wrong with it. The power supply is no good. It doesn't do anything. None of the lights come on, fan doesn't run or anything. Let's put the power supply in from the other one. Got a memory error. So, of course, the memory wasn't in. So I put the memory stick back in the slot where it was. Now it says there's memory there, but it says the memory's failed. So I took the chip out, and it actually was damaged. A couple of the ICs in the center were loose. I don't know how that happened. And they actually fell off just from flexing it a little bit. I don't know if the solder was bad, but so like that one. So it didn't work. So I took the single memory module from the other one, put it in, memory's bad. Put it in here, memory's bad. Put it in here, memory's bad. So then I put the double one in, memory's bad, memory's bad, memory's bad. So whatever's driving the memory circuit is not working. I tried reseating both of the BIOS chips here, and I reseated the processor, and it still doesn't want to boot. So I'm going to say that this one is probably no good. I probably won't throw it away. But I'm going to put the bad power supply back in here. The hard drive says that it has, I've written a note on the outside of the case here. The other one had a note too, but it wasn't really legible. But this says it's 386 DX16, 4 megs of RAM, which was a lie. There wasn't. I probably took them out of here and put them in the other one. And it says it's a 60 meg hard drive, partitioned 2799, DOS 6.22, and Windows 3.1. And then on the actual hard drive it says going bad. So I don't know if this is the hard drive that's got Windows on it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one back together with the bad power supply and get the other one back up here and put this hard drive in the other computer and see if it'll boot. And this one also had a battery in it, but it was not connected. It was in there sideways. It's actually a 6-volt lithium battery. So I don't know if that's any good, but I'll pop that in the other one and see if that lets it boot up. So I'll check back in a minute. Alright, it's back together. What I've done is I've taken the case from the one that I did not modify the board, so there's no hole in here where that other jack was, and I took the PS2 jack off from the 16 megahertz board. that wouldn't boot, and I put it back on the 20 megahertz board, and the keyboard still didn't work. So I looked close at the traces, and apparently when I did some work on it to put that jack in, I was not very careful, and I actually cut one of the traces. So I had to peel away where it was, broken, and I actually ran a small little piece of some telephone wire, some of this real fine wire between the pin and where it was supposed to go, and now the keyboard works. So that was before I put it in the case. So I put it back in the case, put all the parts back in. This is the hard drive from the one that wouldn't boot. So I'm going to start it for the first time with that hard drive and see, first of all, if the hard drive spins up, and second of all, if there's anything on there and if it'll boot. I don't know. Oh, here's one thing that will help. Power cord. They don't usually work without a power cord. Okay, let's try this again, shall we? Do we get video? We do. I just gotta go through testing all the memory. Okay, so it does boot to this point. It's quite possible there's nothing on the hard drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the hard drive, and we'll try it again. If I can get it out of here one-handed. It's two catches. I'm going to have to move you in here close. This is not meant to be done with one hand. There. Alright, so pull the hard drive out. And probably going to search for a floppy. It's hard to tell with that fan. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to either pull the hard drive out so it'll boot to BASIC, because the keyboard does work. There may be a button to get into the BIOS. I'll also look that up and see what we come up with. Okay, so what it turns out happens is when the battery either goes dead or is disconnected, the BIOS, it forgets it completely. I mean, there's nothing. It doesn't know what to do other than boot up to BASIC. So if it sees a drive, it doesn't know what to do because there's no BIOS. So what you have to do is download a startup disk to reprogram the BIOS. Now this battery shows us there's 6 volts in there, even when connected, so I'm assuming that it's good, at least temporarily, but I don't have the disks. So I found them online. I've got them downloaded on my computer, but my computer doesn't have a 3.5 or 3 1/4 floppy, but my music computer does. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, probably not tomorrow, what I'm going to do next week is try to copy those to some 3 1/4 discs and see if I can get this thing to run. But right now it's in BASIC mode, and you can do basic commands. Okay, let's print this as a test. And there, it did it. See? Isn't that amazing? And you can do okay, so that's going to create a loop. So when I press F2 run, it's going to print hello continuously. Then you have to do control break to stop it. So anyway, this isn't really a programming segment, but I do have some basic games and stuff. Book on how to program those. So if I can get this running, I might do a little bit on that. But other than that, I've downloaded the Super VGA drivers, because that is an SVGA monitor. I've downloaded the 3COM drivers and the BIOS startup drivers. So if I got some discs, I'm going to try to burn those to discs, or copy those to discs, and we'll see if we can't get this running. So this is going to be at least a two-part series. So tune in next time to see if we can't get this old girl to actually run. I'm going to put this battery in here sideways just like it was in the other one. And yeah, that'll do it for today. So thanks for watching on part 1 of the IBM PS2 Model 70. It's a 386 DX20. 60 meg hard drive, 1 1/4 floppy, 144 floppy, and that's about it. 3COM networking card. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.